Welcome to In the Room, where we explore the elusive world of casting for film, TV, and commercials. Join us as we interview directors, writers, producers, and actors, taking a deep dive into their experiences with casting and how the ultimate decisions are made in bringing a story to the screen. Get an inside look at casting and find out what really goes on in the room.
Here's some money for you to spend however you want on this vacation.
Cool.
No way, you isn't a rap?
Wait, you?
Do I like rap? Did you just ask me that?
Fresh.
Hey, you guys should come to H2O with us tonight.
What's that?
It's the new underage dance club. You know how to dance, right?
Welcome to In the Room. I'm Heather Kafka, and I'm an actor.
I'm John Williams. I'm a casting director.
And I'm Kendra Franklin. I'm a casting assistant and an actor.
And today we're in the room with writer-director MICHAEL Tully, whose films have played the Rotterdam Film Festival, South by Southwest, and Sundance. He was Filmmaker Magazine's 25 New Faces of Independent Cinema. He's directed music videos for Bonnie Prince Billy, Jack Ingram, and while his documentary Silver Jew captured the late David Berman's rare musical performances in Tel Aviv. His film Ping Pong Summer, which we're going to talk about today, is a coming-of-age story set in the 80s starring Leah Thomson, John Hannah, Amy Sedaris, Robert Longstreet, my favorite, and Susan Sarandon. She's also pretty good. With a cast of young actors giving us classic turns as bullies, heroes, friends, and first loves.
And you crushed it. Like, that was
thank you.
so good, dude.
Yes, I
So
agree.
good.
Yes. I could feel the cassettes and just everything.
I had those pants. I did those moves really badly.
Did you? Really badly?
Dude, it was so accurate. It was so accurate.
It was definitely that line of when I teach like writing or directing, it's always like personal versus autobiographical, and I'm like, there's a lot of personal in there. It's not fully autobiographical, but trying to ride that line. But yeah, smelling the cassettes, I did that.
Yeah.
I smelled it. I could tell you, I'd be
too.
like, Sleeping Bag Records, EPMD, Profile, Run DMC. Like I could actually do a smell test.
That's amazing. Okay, I wasn't that succinct about it, but yes, I would open a new cassette and smell it. Why did we do that?
I mean, it was a new, magical new
it's like the new car smell, because when you open the case, it was just there.
Oh, we had sensory experiences with real media.
Maybe that's what iPhone needs to have, the smellorama or snifferama.
Yes. The smell of a new
Good old days.
touch screen. So how did you start? Like, when did you get the bug to write and tell stories and want to make movies?
It was it's funny because I'm teaching a creative writing camp for elementary schoolers now, and I was just thinking back to, I grew up in Maryland. It is very similar, that my upbringing in Ping Pong Summer, and I was public school, random Maryland, and like school was kind of prison-like it wasn't fun. Like I just was over at a private school here, and I'm like, these books are on your shelf, you're reading this? Like, my life would have been totally different. But that's not true, because I did have my awakening to be a writer via an English teacher in high school, in my public school that I like to crap on. So I actually did have my awakening then. And it was really, initially, it was like short stories, novels. That's what it was. Although I did have the idea for Ping Pong Summer. I remember it was on a spring break when I was going to look at colleges. I was writing it in a notebook in this is the early 90s. I had that idea to be a movie, and it was like, no, The Karate Kid, but with hip hop and ping pong, like my own interests subverted or just thrown into that formula and see what would happen. If you look up at the date of when this came out, it took a while. Like I remember a story I tell a lot is I met David Gordon Green and that crew from the North Carolina School of the Arts right when they were graduating, and we all, most of them, we moved to New York together. And I met David that summer in 1998, and he's like, I'm making a movie called George Washington next summer. And I was like, I'm making a movie called Ping Pong Summer next summer.
No way.
Where was I next summer? In Winston-Salem, helping out on George Washington. And Ping Pong Summer didn't happen for like 20 more years, you know, like, or at that point, I guess it was 15 years. But so this is that idea that I've had. And every year I'd see people from high school would be like, what's going on with Ping Pong Summer? And I'm just like, you know, it just wasn't happening. It was too hard. I wanted to do it right. I wanted to shoot on film. And it just took a long time. But it wasn't until my freshman year of college that I shifted and I realized, oh wait, movies incorporate writing, photography, music, performance, all of it. That's what I think we love about movies, is it's all of the arts combined into one. So that's when I had the epiphany, and I switched out of being just an English major to film and got my degree and moved to New York. I chose New York over LA. And then it was just like years of just kind of hustling, trying to do stuff. And as you see, it took quite a while for Ping Pong Summer. It ended up being about $1.5 million. So it's just more money than I've ever had for a movie. Like, even to have the soundtrack, I was like, wait, we can get Fat Boy Stickum? Like,
Yeah.
Like, can we really open the movie with that?
I felt like there were some songs in there that I was like, he could afford that? How did he do that?
Oh, I mean, that's another. I know we're talking about casting, but just like very quickly, it's amazing. We were in the post on that, and we had, it's a most favored nation, so it was like $5,000 for, you know, $2,500 for the publishing for the songwriter, $2,500 for the label, and that's it. And we can't. If anyone goes higher, you have to pay that. So very quickly, if it goes to like one person asks for, so New Edition, we had Cool It Now in the like dance scene in the club. Because it was perfect because he's trying to be a grown-up. It's underage club, so New Edition was like, you know, our soundtrack for that.
Yeah.
And they wanted $20,000 for Cool It Now.
Ooh.
And I was just like, wait, that makes our music budget $10 million, or like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So our music supervisor went back to them, and they're like, you could do Popcorn Love. And I was like, oh my God, I love that song too. So it was just like very weird how Cool It Now, the same artist, was a $15,000 difference in a song, but that wasn't just $15,000. That was multiply that by 10, so it would have been another $200,000 in the budget.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit of a digression. But I think it's just fun in that way to be like, wait, I thought I was gonna have New Edition. No, it's going away. Oh, it came back. We got Popcorn Love. Just as happy. We put the soundtrack out. Our music supervisor says, Tully, I've never worked on a soundtrack that sold less in my entire life, because we didn't. I don't think anyone even knew it was out. I mean, I know streaming has ruined in some ways. Soundtracks are tougher, but we actually. I have, I think, 468 of the 500 vinyls at our house.
One.
Oh yeah, you guys can all.
I want one immediately. I had no idea it existed.
Any cassettes?
And we made cassettes.
I want both.
We had the.
I will
That's the
buy
thing is,
them.
this movie was, you know, $1.5 million is not that much money in the grand scheme, but it was everything I wanted. We went to Sundance. We had cassettes that had a download in it. We made ping pong balls with the Ping Pong Summer logo. Everything that I kind of dreamed of. I threw out the first pitch at Camden Yards. My mom's an Orioles fan. I was just kind of like, this is better than if I won an Oscar right now. Like, my mom genuinely was more excited of me doing a first pitch than if I were to win an Oscar. So it was all these wonderful things happened with this movie. But it was definitely homegrown. Like, for that $1.5 million, we raised it. It wasn't like you can do a Kickstarter. It's not Spike Lee. You can't do a $2 million Kickstarter for like nobody with a movie. But we put the word out. And like my producer, George Rush, says, usually for like $1.5 million movie, $1 million to $3 million, there's like one big chunk. So you get like half of it written, a $750,000 check, and then you're cobbling together to get the rest to make it to that mark.
And then at the end, it's your own credit cards.
Yeah, and then you start throwing in your credit cards. But ours, we never went more than I think 100 or 125,000. It was like 30 investors, very homegrown. It just, people were, some older woman from like Ellicott City, Maryland was like, I heard on the radio about your movie and it sounds very sweet. And we just were like, yes, of course, please invest in. No, she didn't do that much, but it was definitely a very homegrown affair. And then of course, if you have questions or whatever, but getting into like, you know, assembling that team. Susan Sarandon
You're like doing
definitely.
televangelist. You're like on.
Yeah.
I'm here for all of it. I mean, we'll get to casting. Give it all to me.
Right.
Like, this is fascinating. So this was all over in Maryland, right?
In Maryland. And it was also the thing now with movies, they're all made in New Mexico or Atlanta. I'm just like, none of these
Switches.
movies. And even Kat, who was in, I don't know if she talked about, or Kat, you did, Kat?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kat, I guess, is in Wilmington with her show, but had the character wearing AFS, Austin Film Society gear. My wife works there, and Holly's like, Kat wrote me about getting some AFS merch to wear for the character. But I'm just like, the world we're in now, although I think, did a credit just pass? I heard
It's about
from-
to.
Yeah, that
Yes.
sounds very
All we need
refreshing.
is for
All
the
we need
governor
is
to
an
sign
industry
it.
to,
The governor signs it. All we need is an industry that's still alive.
working
Yeah.
professionals. But
No, we just need the governor to sign it.
But it was important to me to shoot because I wanted to shoot on film. I wanted to shoot in Ocean City, which is where I grew up going. And the benefit of that is people say, how do you make a movie, a period piece, feel more authentic? Ocean City was like,
Stuck in time.
move that car, get a 16mm camera, move that car.
There you are.
We're good. Like on one of the first days of shooting, we were on the boardwalk, and the very nice company Trimpers, who let us use the boardwalk and the arcade and the rides. One of the owners came up and goes, could our secretary, she's worked with us for like 39 years, could she like be an extra maybe? Or I was like, of course, yes.
You're like
know,
her friends,
yeah,
anyone else that
yeah,
wants to-
anyone, call
everybody.
anyone.
Yeah.
So I bring Stephanie Lewis, our costumer, over, and I was like, Stephanie, can you like 85 her? That's the word we came, is like to approve the. I was like, can you 85 her? She goes, she's good.
already 85? Oh, no.
Picture ready. So when people ask, and
That's
the other good model for that was the movie This Is England, the Shane Meadows film from a few years
see
ago,
that.
British film. I watched the extras on that, and that was like really authentic, felt like a BBC drama from the 80s. And a tip on one of the extras was, like, you only notice it if it's wrong. So they had a street where the car pulls in and parks outside the home. And he's like, if you notice, there's no other cars anywhere. There's not even one other car in a driveway because we didn't have a budget. But nobody knows. You're
No.
following the picture car,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's shot on grainy 16mm. So it's like,
I mean, you get big problems if people are like, wait, there's no cars. I mean,
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Then they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you're not maybe making the best movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we got really lucky, and it was important to me to shoot in Maryland. And we actually got the the county and the entertainment board, tourism board, invested in our movie, which had never happened before, because it is somewhat family friendly, and it's putting the city in a positive light. And I think they said, if we have $300,000 or $500,000 to use to do our like Bon Jovi laser light show or whatever, is like, why don't we put some of this into this movie? It's Susan Sarandon's in it. I don't know. And if it hits, it hits.
You couldn't get the rights to Bon Jovi?
No, we tried it. We got Kiss in there.
But
Look it up.
you got Sister Christian, didn't you? Is that what that was?
Yeah. Night Ranger.
Yeah.
I think that might have been a re-record. That's, again, another inside
really?
baseball, is a lot of these. And the No Parking on the Dance Floor, that was a re-record. So that's a way that the musicians can actually make their money, is they're saying, we're beholden to Arista Records, or they're screwing us or whatever. So let's just re-record it,
Oh.
use it. And it totally, I was pretty nerdy about that stuff. And I still was like, oh, this sounds great to me. This isn't,
That's
exact-
amazing.
yeah.
Inside
That's what
tip.
Taylor Swift did too, right?
She just
Oh,
re-recorded
with her,
all of her
yeah.
own music
Yeah.
because
Just to
of
be like,
Scooter
bye-bye
Braun.
label.
Yeah.
I'm going to start
Mhm.
taking some of
Yeah.
this.
Well, I think it was that Scooter guy bought her stuff and
yeah.
then sold it and made a bunch of money or whatever.
Yeah.
So you were hustling for a long time, just trying to get it off the ground.
Yeah, every winter I'd say this next summer it's happening, and
And-
then by spring I was like, no, it's not.
which makes the casting process extremely difficult, or trying to get people attached, or like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it also changed a lot. I had versions like Sasquatch was drinking a 40 in it. I had Rad was older. So it kind of ended up being the alchemy of where I was in my life at that moment. And I said I want it to be that kind of like important between 8th and 9th grade, where you're like, I think this kid is going to be cool, but he hasn't found it yet. So I ended up, and I'm glad that we went with the like younger Rad, where I had versions. It was kind of just where I was the movies started becoming a Rorschach of like what my interests were. The template was always, Karate Kid with hip hop and ping pong, but then I would fluctuate with that. So in the sense of if we'd had an actor commitment way sooner, like I did a test reel with Will Janowitz, who's a friend. He's another like part of the, I think, North Carolina School of the Arts crowd. But that's where when he was going to be a little older, and in New York we shot that, and I did some versions, but ultimately it was just kind of like, I want to have a Rad who's a discovery and put him into this world. I just thought it would be better. But yeah, just every year. And it wasn't until I think the momentum of having George Rush, who sold my previous film, Septien, that I made, in which I acted in, and I'm not really an actor. And I was just like, I'm just going to make something on my credit card. Well, thank you. But I was like, I want to make a movie that's just genre defying and strange. I don't know if anyone's going to want to watch it, but I'm feeling it. And it got into Sundance, and IFC picked it up. But George was the sales rep for that. So he's an entertainment lawyer in San Francisco. And when we met at Sundance, after he had brokered the deal with Sundance Selects IFC Films, he was like, "Do you have any other movie ideas?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got this ping pong hip hop I've been trying to make for 30 years or whatever." He's like, "Wait, that actually sounds like a good idea." He's like, it's like this personal drama that no one wants to watch this, that I'm trying to raise money for. He's like, "I think I could get the money together for that." So it was literally the springboard of having a movie at Sundance that really no one recognized, even though IFC did pick it up, but it was definitely a cult film. But it was enough to get that springboard, and that's what launched me having a producer who's like, "I think I can raise this money. Let's get the ball rolling." And it took off from there. And that was Sundance 2011, and we shot it in the September, October of 2012. So it was about a year and a half from there when it really became like.
And it came out 2014.
And then 2014 was the Sundance, and then that summer, almost to the day, about 9-ish years ago, it came out.
I mean, I can't imagine another cast or older. It was so perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just really. I mean, one other thing I'll say with the casting is, and the movie wasn't received in the way. It wasn't like a pop of like the movie we thought. We're like, is this going to be a big, Fox Searchlight $10 million way back or whatever? And it proved not to be, which is fine. But I think there's something to. I really wanted to have a lead non-actor who was just kind of not acting Napoleon Dynamite, like surrounding normalcy with all the characters, and him just being a little bit like, reserved, shy. And that's a choice that I think in some ways maybe could have limited it in a way of like, if you had a more of a Napoleon Dynamite, Rad was like quirky and whatever.
The perfect temperature, though, is the perfect like truth to that. Like, I think at that era and that time when hip hop culture was coming into like the suburbs, and how, the kids were taking it, and how that city was emerging with the suburbs, like he just like nailed it.
Yeah. And the funnier thing with casting Rad is we were working, one of the producers, Michael Gottwald, was part of the Court 13 crew who made Beasts of the Southern Wild. And I'd befriended those guys early, kind of when they were making their shorts, Glory at Sea and stuff. And they did the real, like, we're going to go into communities and just did casting. So we did that for about a long summer. I was living in New York still then, and I would come down to Maryland, and we'd just like go to a library, go to a school, put the word out on Facebook or whatever. And it wasn't so much. And then we definitely ended up using Pat Moran, Baltimore casting director. And so it was definitely a multi-tiered process. But for the discoveries, we would just go places. So for Rad, it's pretty hilarious, is I call her our fixer, but this woman, Ruth Waters, who was kind of in real estate and was helping us kind of put us up. And just when we were going to Ocean City, trying to get people excited, she was really enthusiastic. So when we did our Ocean City call, she's like, "Oh, my niece and nephew are in from New Jersey, like Cape May, or just kind of above the water taking a ferry." And she totally played it cool of like, they're here, so they may pop in. And I was like, okay, cool. And then her nephew comes in, and it's Marcello. And just right away, I was kind of like, I feel like I'm looking at me, sort of. And, that's what I guess all these filmmakers who kind of have your like surrogate of you. But just something about his shyness, but sweetness was there. So I didn't find out until we were shooting and he got the part. He was like, no, I came down and I like kind of really wanted this. And didn't tell anyone. It was just very casual of like, they're just going to pop in too. So it was an absolute discovery. And then Teddy Fry was another instance of, you talk about serendipity. We were near where I live in Central Maryland in Urbana at a library. He and his sister came in, not even knowing about the audition or wanting to audition or anything. And my sister was helping, and she saw Miles Massey, and she was like, she spotted him. It was kind of like, there's a kid out here. And then he came in and he had a little bit of a Maryland accent, which is like very hard to teach. And I was just like, oh man, this is amazing. So then they went home to tell her parents. And, you know, it's that thing of like, I was at the library and some people took me in a room, and I was like, no, we're real people. We're normal. So I met his parents as soon as possible to be like,
street casting kids is the worst. It's like, hey, you want to be in a movie, kid?
It's a real thin line between like art and perv.
Yeah.
And I think that line actually blurs a lot. But no, so those two leads were really genuine. And then when it came to Stacey Summers, I really wanted a kind of Ocean City gal who just felt right. We went through our audition process all over, did our Ocean City audition. I was just like, there was no one. And then I got an email, I think it was an email, from Emmy saying like, she was at that time 14-ish, I think turning 15, and was like, I was acting in another movie in Baltimore and I missed the audition. Is there any way I could maybe meet you Zoom or something? And I just saw her picture and I was like, wait, she lives, and she was from there. And I was just like, wait a minute, and showed my wife, and she was like, this seems... So then we Zoomed with her, and that was another one. It's on Zoom, and I still had my wife join just to be like, just to make it feel safer, as safe as possible. I'm like, I'm on Zoom. I can't do anything. Well, I guess you could, but anyway,
That's smart.
she zoomed in, and I was like, right away when she was talking, she also had a little bit of a Maryland accent, was very sweet and genuine, pretty, but also had a sense of humor, and I could tell right away. It was like immediate. I was just like, that's Stacey. We got Stacey.
So for Marcello, though, when you see him and he's shy and he has that demeanor, which is typically you see that, but then it's getting a performance, right? Of that. Was he already trying in the mindset? Because he didn't read anything, he didn't know anything, right?
Yeah, no. At that
typically,
time,
you see kids like that, and you're like, "Oh, this is it." But then getting them to perform,
Yeah.
and to be that subtle,
Yeah.
and to realize that no, your shyness and your quietness is what I like. I don't want you to do vaudeville. I don't want you to,
Yeah, and it was tough because Marcello, and then Teddy is the other, because he's like vibrant. So it was more about when everyone says also is like teaching acting is like, who are you talking about? Like whether it's an actor or a non-actor, it's like, who is the human I'm talking to? Some actors want backstory, some actors don't. It's like everybody is different. So for Teddy, it was about like pumping up before a take, being like, let's do this, like I'm Teddy Fry. And he was much more mild-mannered as a kid. So it was much less where Marcello, I was like, just trying to make it gravity. I mean, like, you're here for a reason. You don't need to do, like the character of the world, your parachute pants are going to do a lot of the talking for you. So it was a mix between those two.
That's really hard for an actor in general, that's kind of like the skill, is you're honing into doing nothing, because the camera can just literally read your mind. Just think it and feel it kind of thing. The less is more. That's really hard to do.
But both those kids were so stylized and so like it was so well crafted, like.
But in that, you don't know all those.
I know. That's why it's so amazing. You took two non-actors and you were able to get such like just detailed performances out of them.
Yeah, we did rehearsal in a way that was, nowadays it's kind of like show up. Hi, how are you? Let's have our intense scene. Yeah. But for those guys, we did a little a ping pong camp. So with the bad guys, all the kid actors we had,
which were also just so good.
And they were. It's funny because they were also more traditional. That was a Pat Moran casting. So we had some video auditions, and then we were in a room. This is back when I guess that still happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And they came in, and right away, like with Lyle, I think I had watched a video or seen a picture. I was kind of like, no, but just somehow the way he did this look, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, like I got it. That's it. And then with Andy Riddle, who plays Dale, he just had this. I was like, is this Philip Seymour Hoffman like gone haywire? He was really smart and kind of got it, where I was like, have you only watched 80s movies? Because somehow you understand. I didn't even have to tell you what to do. He got it. He's a comedian and a really good actor. But one of the funnier casting was Maddie Howard, who plays the little cousin, Rhonda. I had envisioned that as like, the typical thing is, in the 6th grade dance is like the female towering over the little boy who's not hit puberty yet. So that's what I envisioned, is that she was just physically intimidating and was just overpowering, and that would be the humor of him just being like, So Maddie had auditioned. I think she auditioned for Stacy. And she seemed very young, like even probably now, I haven't seen her in a while. She probably she's one of those people who just seems way younger than they are. So it didn't feel right for Stacy. She felt a little too young. And then she came in and auditioned as Rhonda. And I was like, oh, where I think, saying good directing versus bad directing, but it's like when you tell yourself, like, I was completely wrong. It's a like 6-year-old who's only watched soap operas, and that's how she's learned to live her life. So it's like watching General Hospital, and then she comes into the room, and I was like, that is so much better than my silly brain and, at home in my room would have come up with. So she ended up getting the part of Rhonda that was 100%, where everyone else was kind of what I had envisioned going into it. That's an example of one via the audition where I was like, oh, it's so much better.
That's amazing.
If it's the opposite, where she's like 9 and she's coming in like watching Dallas or something.
Yeah.
I thought it was just so well crafted, just like, because you did have some just spot on 80s characters, and it was maybe dialed up to 9, but then you had the other guys playing it more natural, and it just balanced the whole world out. Like, and it just hit so many moments. I feel like you were just so ahead of your time with the throwback too. Like,
I know.
Yeah, it does
feels
kind of
like,
feel that way.
Then once anything started coming or Stranger, all that, I was like, hey guys, here we are in 2014.
Yeah.
We're still
I was
here.
like, we should re-release it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I got agents I don't have agents anymore. I had agents, and it was kind of right in the era before everyone started doing it, but they were like, Ping Pong Summer, the TV show. I was like, I've just been wanting to do this for 20 years. I'm so tired. The last thing and they were 100% right. I should have just been like pivoted to, because there are more stories and you could just kind of use that template somehow. But at the time they were just, that was the thing of like, make it a TV show. And I was just like, I never want to deal with this world again.
But even then, it would have taken 10 years to get
it there.
Yeah.
Then it might have timed out, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how the phases happen. And you're like, oh, wait, I go see my nieces who are teenagers, and I'm like, you look like you're dressing in Ping Pong Summer now.
Yeah.
So then how did it get to an Amy Sedaris? Robert Longstreet, I'm assuming you knew him.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I had to fight a little for Longstreet. I had acted with him before in Septien, and I just have loved him. I saw him in Orner Tickell's Ding-a-Lingless, one of my favorite early indie films from that era. He's another North Carolinian. And I was like, who is that guy? Oh my God. And I remember David Green and everyone, we were just like, Robert Longstreet, just freaking out about him. And So I always just thought of him as Uncle Jim, and then just even the can't get in, like thinking about him delivering that line of the mosquitoes. I'm just like, why did we have any meeting at all to be like, should there be someone else? Like there were other names that were maybe bigger names thrown in. And I'm just like, you guys, I'm telling you, this is going to work. And Amy Sedaris was kind of a cold, I think, just an outreach. Like we didn't know. We covered a lot of ground. So it was like Amy Sedaris and Leah Thomson and John Hannah were the producer. George, I think, went out to those big names. Like Pat Moran, the casting was mainly for filling the void of local, the bigger parts, like the bad guys, life-saving. If without her, we wouldn't have had that whole arm of the film. But as far as getting the like name actors, I think that was really George as producer reaching out. And then Susan Sarandon, this, like to explain that, is I had written a draft where the Miyagi character, I wanted it to be Werner Herzog as like the bleakest mentor in cinema history, sports cinema. Just like you will die anyway, so it does not matter if you win or lose or whatever. And just
Eat
being
this
like,
shoe.
eat your shoe. So I had, as I said, many various versions. But then there was at that window of time. Susan Sarandon, I don't know if you know her connection to ping pong, table tennis.
Nope.
So she at the time now, she was dating a younger fella.
Do you know?
Right.
Do you know
That's
her?
why I was
Yeah. She's
a ping pong champion.
She was dating the founder of Spin, which is a club, which was here. I think it's gone now, but it started in New York, and it was like a kind of a high-end ping pong club with bar. And she was just sort of like became a champion. And I think even in New York schools, she was trying to get it into public schools of like, this is a good sport. It's, physical entertainment, but it's actually fun for you. So I knew she was kind of like written about in New York as this odd, unexpected ping pong champion or something. So I reached out here's where the like knowing people and kind of groundwork, I reached out to Mark and Jay Duplass, who had directed her, and Jeff, Who Lives at Home. And those guys had left. I moved here to Austin in 2012. So I think they had kind of like left Austin, but I'd befriended them and they came to see like Septien at South by and stuff. So I wrote them and I was just like, was she okay to work with? Like I'd rather make a movie that's either not good or terrible or than dealing with, like I just it doesn't work for me to have negative energy any step in the process. And they said, no, she was great. She was sweet. She was awesome. So we sent the script to her. I think she kind of read it and was like, what is this? And Jonathan, at the time, her boyfriend read it and I think he was the one actually that really got sparked to be like, oh, wait, this isn't just like, it's called Ping Pong Summer, but it's also about the 80s. It's music, culture. Like this could be good for all of us, in the sense of like this could actually help with the brand and get ping pong out in the world. So I think he had her give it a second look, kind of like maybe you should. And then we met up in New York and got along. And the funny thing is she watched Septien, the very weird film I made where I'm like bearded and the lead role. And I was like, if you'd told me 5 years ago Susan Sarandon was watching Septien to consider being in Ping Pong Summer, like
that is a really weird bridge to cross.
Yeah, it's a very strange bridge. But she did it, and she was really there for about a week. Came in a day or two in advance, and was just absolutely sweet with the kids. And
fantastic.
That was another one. Was maybe a little different. Like I let her and the costumer kind of run with. Because it's the kind of thing of like I thought maybe the character was a little more Boo Radley, haggard, withered, and I think she had this idea of like the kind of biker Farrah Fawcett like 80s rock vibe, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna try to talk that, like it was one of those things where that wasn't maybe on the page what I envisioned, but I think at some point you need to let your actors feel comfortable.
You say, thank you for coming.
Right.
And also, if it was like
here.
wrong, but I was like, no, I like this. Like the idea of her wielding that fish with that hair. I was like, this still tracks for me. This is still going to be very bizarre. And like, what is going on here? So we covered, just even listing those paths to casting for this one film was like discovery in a library of someone who didn't even know there was an audition. The surreptitious nephew of the fixer who came in quietly to audition, then the like unexpected tried another role, and then getting the names. And John Hannah too was someone we just reached out to. Leah had a good point. I had a call with her and she was kind of like about an hour-long call, and I'd never really done anything like that before. So I'm just like, if you're not a raging narcissist or sociopath, it's like we're all insecure. And I was just like, am I gonna talk her into it? Or, like she was engaged enough to talk, but she was saying her issue was a little bit like the mom is just kind of, she's there, she doesn't really. And then I went to the default, which I would always say in a writing class, never do. It's like, but that's how it was, it's like, who cares? It's not cinematic. So we gave her a few things, like for example, one where she like as small as like her handing Rad his paddle at the end before the championship, like little things like
Yes.
that felt a little bit of ownership. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, but I was like, my mom was like the list keeper who would be quiet and kind of
Yeah.
do all that stuff. And I'm like, I know that's not cinematic, but so we had a call and she was like, no, I'm down. Came out and it was great. And then you talk about just the random miracles of casting. We had an open call in Ocean City for all the other like 20 roles. And there's like the drunk tank clown, the
Yeah.
dunk tank clown. This guy came in and just like
See, I was almost positive that was like a grip or somebody.
Yeah,
No,
me
no,
too.
no.
I thought the same thing.
no, this guy, he was just absolutely unbelievable. He came in and was just like, knew them all and then was winging it. He didn't do a take that was the same every time. And I was just like, have you been a dunk tank clown? Like,
Right?
so we got really, and then the other one that I think is a real keeper is the like, I know in The Wire, they say the most Maryland accent, they were trying to top themselves. So it was like, Omar Little, no, abode. And I was like, so they're trying to get as many O's into that sentence. So I wanted to top that with time to take a telescope photo and you can't say no. And when we got this kid who came in and did the audition and he said that, I was just like, I've never heard a more Maryland accent than what you just did right now. Like, he's got the part.
I mean, and as someone who had the telescope photos taken at Six Flags, and those things just don't exist anymore.
Do they not?
No,
Yeah,
and to
no.
see that was just so like, oh, I remember. I think I
Yeah.
saw a meme on Facebook recently or whatever. They were like, you're this old if you know this or
Oh,
whatever. And I'm like, oh, I know
yeah.
exactly what that is. You look inside and there's a picture of you and your friend in front of the whatever.
And you don't know how it's going to be till like 5 o'clock when you go pick them up. Is this even going to come out? Oh, man.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So it was definitely a journey, but it was about a year and a half to like get to actually shooting.
And
Wow.
so George got you all the money for that, which got you
Yeah,
all
and
the
we
money
had a
for the
few other
people.
producers that were, also like helping him kind of come in with it. But George was really he's kind of my guardian angel. Like, if I'm going to ever make another movie, it's like, George better be excited by this script. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. But the community really rallied. Ocean City, there was the only other movie that had actually been shot there at the time was Jack Fisk, the great production designer, all-time great, Sissy Spacek's husband. He's done David Lynch, everyone. One of his only directing, he did some Twin Peaks episodes, but it's called Violets Are Blue with Kevin Kline and Sissy Spacek in 1985, in the year where we were set, Ping Pong Summer was set. So I was going to try to have a like Easter egg of like, could we get, it didn't work out. But some people would come up as extras and be like, yeah, I was an extra in Violets Are Blue back in 85. I'm just like, you guys really should have more movies being made because that's all anyone's talking about
Austin
here.
used to be like that for a while. It was
Oh,
always
yeah.
Blood Simple. It was
Yeah,
like, they
yeah.
made a movie here called Blood Simple. And that was it. And that Farrah Fawcett went to UT. And that's all we had going for us.
Did she? I didn't know that.
Apparently.
Wow.
Because that was my mom's lure for keeping me here. She was like, Farrah Fawcett went to UT. You don't have to move to LA. And I was like, okay, Mom. Wow.
Yeah. So it was a journey.
How long did you shoot?
It was 28 or 29 days. So it was like it felt for me really luxurious. The crazy thing with shooting is that we wrapped on a Friday at like midnight, 1 o'clock. It was the pier scene when they're out and he misses the kiss and he says, the moon looks deaf. And she's like, what are you, you're a dork. But we shot the pier. But this is another one of the crazy thing of preparation is key. So we had the plan and then we're setting up to shoot and something wasn't feeling right. And Wyatt Garfield, the DP, we're just like, something's weird. And we realized this is about after an hour of setup and lighting. And this is finishing the movie. So we're also antsy because we're excited. We know we're going to be done. And we realize, wait, we don't have the pier in the shot. The whole point was to be shooting at the pier, and somehow all these brilliant minds of filmmakers were like, why are we pointing here? So we had to have stock and talk to Cedric, our first AD, to just do that kind of like, this might freak you out a little bit, but like we messed up, again, good communication. The crew was just like, own it. Everyone in that crew owned it if there was a mistake made, including very much myself. But we're like, we have to relight, whatever. So we got the pier in there, but that was Friday night at around midnight or 1 we wrapped. And then Monday morning, Hurricane Sandy hit. And the pier was damaged like very early. It ended up going north to New Jersey, but like I was driving out on Sunday morning and I had the Take Shelter, David Wingo's incredible Take Shelter soundtrack. I was like, I have to play this because it was already starting in the sky in the mirror.
Wow.
So I'm literally driving out of Ocean City. Like we made a period piece set in 85, but it may be documenting this town that may not be here on Monday.
Yeah.
And then they lucked out. Everything went okay, but we were so close. We wrapped in the nick of time. But beyond that, it was great. It was 30 days of just 29 days of fun.
The only moment I questioned
Yes.
was during the montage.
Yes.
And they were doing the rides and
Yes.
the guns. How did they afford that?
Rides
Where'd the cash come from to
Where'd
pay
the
for all the
cash come-
rides and the guns and
The
all
rides were probably free.
He had that $20.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, the kids?
Yeah, the kids.
Oh,
That's what
yeah.
I
He only has 20
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, wasn't it? That
Like
ride probably
50
would have been.
cents?
Well, it
do-
might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, the loop roller, that ride might have been $2 or $3.
I was like, he's
but-
hooking Teddy up, man.
Yeah,
He's getting,
yeah.
I like the way he wore that looper duper whatever t-shirt.
Super duper looper
he
shirt.
wore that more than once.
Yes, I also wanted
That
to.
felt really like a nice touch because nobody ever repeats wardrobe
I
in a
know.
freaking movie, but people in real life do it all the time.
Yeah, you go to vacation and you're in 7th grade in
And you've
Maryland.
only brought
you're
two
like, I got my
t-shirts.
super duper looper shirt.
well, you got your cool
Yes.
shirt.
Yeah,
right?
I got
That's
my
my
cool
cool
shirt,
shirt.
and then
Yeah.
I guess I have to wear this one.
Yeah.
So, but then even to the point where I think I have, or he's putting it away, right? I think she did the laundry even in one scene where I have him to like,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
washed it or whatever, just to like address that of like,
Right.
this is what that family, that's kind of the middle
It
class
made
or whatever.
sense. It totally tracked. It's like, I only brought this. We only have this much money, and this is my dope shirt, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear it all the
I'm
time.
gonna wear
Nobody's
it.
gonna know, right? We're just transient here.
The other funny thing is my wife and I, that's from Hershey Park in Pennsylvania. And my wife and I both, that's our first loop roller coaster was the Super Duper
Really?
Looper. Yeah. So it's very
The super
personal.
duper looper. Aw, it's got meaning.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now what?
Your dad's so hot.
That's so hot.
Wasn't that the line when he was jumped in the water? I like that. It was
Oh,
a nice
yeah,
touch.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a wink. You know, my favorite lines in the movie are, and I'm not just saying it to be humble, are like improv. Like, that's another thing I think with directing is like, you know, you have this template. If the script isn't there, it's not going to get better necessarily. You know, it's only going to get worse in production. But the best lines, like one day at the putt-putt, the mini golf, we weren't shooting, and I was walking past Helena, who plays the sister, Michelle, and I heard her say, like, my friend says I'm too cool for fun or something. I was like, whoa, you know, I'm getting talked to by someone. I was like, whoa, what did you just say?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm too cool for fun. And I was like, hello. And then she puts that in the movie where, you know, he's just like, why are you having, I'm too cool for fun. It just felt so like teen or like tween
so
to me.
teen.
Were you overwhelmed because that was your biggest production to date, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's this suppression of, I was never overwhelmed. It was always, I felt like this is what I should be doing. I felt excited. I ended up driving every day myself, and it was weird. I was listening to this one Elliott Smith song, became my little, I was like, is this my cuddle buddy here? But I never had like a cry. You know, I never was like, I need to go off and have a cry. They protected me pretty well, I think, my producers, with any issues that had come up. And we were prepared. I think we did well with our preparation and knowing.
And you only had, what, 20 years?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I only had 20 years. But again, it was like a wonky 20 years because I'm like, if I was doing this at 21 or at 23 out of graduating school, and like David Green, if I had gone and been like, I'm doing it anyway, I would have been like,
What would it have been like?
it would not have been a good idea. Like, so I was very prepared. I know Susan, I think, had a birthday while we were shooting, and it was the day of the fish scene, and I'm just like, everything felt real because it's like, you know, a little stressful, and you're kind of, but there were definitely little waves where I was like, am I dreaming? Like I'm on a dock with Susan Sarandon wielding a fish on her birthday. Like this totally sounds like I would say it was a dream I had.
Really bizarre.
And then like Orange Crush is the big drink. So everyone, it was just a young crew that everyone loved. that had a lot of fun, and they'd go back to the hotel. It was a location shoot in a way that I was really hoping we could afford.
Yeah.
And I think that went a really long way. They had Teamsters, like the union in Baltimore, which is about 2.5 hours from there. And when we were in pre-production, they called one of the producers and like, yeah, we heard you got a Susan Sarandon, we heard this $5 million movie. We got to get our guys on it, And we were like, it is not Ryan, our producer, Ryan Zacharias is like,
let him think that.
Come down, please come see. It's not even $2 million. It's not union. We're putting all our money into this movie. And he's like, got to get a guy on it. So we got a honey wagon for the first week. For the first 2 or 3 days of shoot, and then it was Labor Day. So we shot I think it was 2 or 3 days, then had Labor Day and got back into it. The honey wagon, the union guy who came down, because they were all, he's like, my guys are beating down the door. I got to get my guys on this. So we're like, okay, we got someone. He took my car, like the director's rental car. I was like, oh, you can take it if you're going to Baltimore. I'll be here. It's fine. And then when he got there, he's like, I don't want to go back. Like they're just like all wearing short shorts and high-fiving and having fun. Like, what is this? I don't know what this is. We're like, thought your guys, I was like, can we get my car back? Can you drive the car back? So I think we had to send a PA to get the car back from Baltimore.
I see you're trying to flip the union, and we're going to flip you.
Yeah, I think Shane Kennedy, one of our, someone short jean shorts flipped the union on that shoot.
Someone jean shorts. Where did you put Susan Sarandon?
She was just at one of the kind of the only nice. I mean, there are nice hotels, but we put her at the nicest hotel in Ocean City. She was a trooper. Everyone was really kind of like, she didn't complain, and she had her little dog Miss Penny there, and she. Another thing was, I think, leading up to it. This isn't even off the record, or I'm happy to talk about it, but I think she was kind of like, what's going on, or what, like communication lines were getting a little blurrier because I was focused on, we're starting the shoot. And she came down she showed up the day that we were shooting the Amy Sedaris, Longstreet, Uncle Jim and Aunt Peggy scene. And I think that I'm speaking for her or whatever, but I think it placed her at ease to see what was going on.
That would make me
comfortable. Amy was like, yo, I don't want to leave. I wish
Amy
I had
was on
more.
Fire.
I mean, those two, that was one where I was like a Three's Company, a sitcom.
Seriously.
Tantric summer of just
so
those
good.
two, just having
those two.
sessions.
Those two, so good.
Yeah, they clicked in a way that I was like, I hoped and I thought. The other funny thing when you talk about dealing with actors, luckily I'm friendly with Longstreet. He was like, I don't want to take my shirt off ever for any movie. I'm not taking my shirt off.
Really?
I was like, oh man, come on, Robert, you got it. And he's like, my mom said, you just do it or whatever. But he got spray tanned 5 times and he's like,
I look
can
amazing.
I cuss in this?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't even feel like I'm wearing a fucking shirt. Or I feel like I'm wearing a fucking shirt right now.
Seriously, their skin was so perfectly covered.
The morning of, or the morning after the shoot, he came downstairs. He's like, my hotel room looks like a crime scene.
Yeah, because of the spray tan. My butthole is tan. Every inch of him was tan.
But it was really helpful. Again, I think once she got there and saw oh no, they know what they're doing and we're having fun.
Yeah.
It was great. Amy, I know, bought the book. Garland, our gaffer, had put out a book of Polaroids of just kind of everyone was making their own stuff, and Amy was really good about I want to buy that. And then Judah Friedlander's another one of Judah is. He was on 30 Rock at the time, and I think contractually it was sort of he wasn't supposed to do anything else, which that's another thing. If there's a SAG strike, I'm like, are you really telling someone not, it's if you have if you have to shoot, that's your priority, but on a day off, really? Seems a little not caring for your talent, who wants to just work. But anyway, he came down.
Don't
and
get me started about health insurance earnings.
Oh gosh.
How does that?
Yeah, how does that work?
If
with
I can't
yeah,
work.
because then if you can't work. But Judah came down. He's great at ping pong. He's also like really good at soccer. He's from Maryland, so that was another thing of he was kind of like, I want to help you out. And
were you guys friends from New York?
No. I met him via Jonathan Bricklin. So I met him at Spin and we played ping pong. And I was like, oh shit, you're really good. Like, I'm not even going to try to play you. He's awesome. But he came down the night before and went straight to the art department warehouse, became the hangout. And we had tables and just sort of everyone would hang out there. Even after rapping, I was like, I think we're doing something right if an hour after we rap, everyone's still hanging out together, you know? It was a really, really good time. But Judah came in and just demolished everyone in ping pong. And then that next day when he acted, it was just, I was kind of like, again, you're not telling someone like that what to do. You're trying to give them this, like, make sure they know they feel confident to do something and then let him run with it. So we did, again, we didn't have all day. We were busy, but I would give him a few takes to just be like, if you want to do anything, you know. So again, within that format. And I think that, like, what does he say? Like, don't fill the top up or whatever, fill it up. Don't put the lid on it. Take the sip. That was definitely a Judah that I was like, thank you.
Yeah, he was great. I mean,
everybody was so good, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I think I could see how an actor would be scared because it's like the execution of that could go really, really bad.
Yeah.
And it was just so spot on.
Well, when you're talking about tone, you know, it is tough because it is really I think filmmaking is a personality of like your taste buds come out somehow. So how do you, it's very weird to talk about.
Well, to take kids that don't have any reference.
Yeah. And also don't have a
80s.
reference.
Yeah.
To be so spot on with their performances.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the thing is what we decided was like, it's not that different. The parachute pants are going to make you 80s, you know? Like, I think that was the thing.
But just knowing that that self-conscious he had walking around and what he knows is cool, but nobody else knows is cool.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I remember carrying the boombox being like, I'm so rad. And people look at me going, I'm such a dork.
Yeah. Like to go from hero to zero at that age. And then him even in the mall walking, just like, I got my parachute pant, but very quickly it gets lonely.
Yeah.
But that still is just like a hard world to understand when you're already cell phone, social media generation.
Yeah, they seem pretty good.
Right?
Like these kids were, that crew, somehow they were, and I did some playlists, you know, did the usual of like, here are some playlists. And
they had to watch some 80s movies too.
Yeah,
right?
I definitely suggested some 80s movies. But one of the biggest was it called Big Fun in the Big Town? It was a Danish or a Dutch documentary in the 80s where a Dutch filmmaker came over and just went into New York and just started tracking down, like, went to LL Cool J's grandma's house. And it was like that era and Run DMC. So it's shot on 16. So that was something that I showed them. And Dougie Fresh, like, sitting on the stoop beatboxing with the little kids beatboxing. And that inspired... Oh, that's another one. You talk about casting the little boy Oakley, who is one of the beatboxers. Who I'm like, he looks like Brando. He came to an audition, and I was just like, my sister's like, she came in, she's like, this kid coming in, I don't know what is going on, but oh my, he's like the handsomest person I've ever met. And he came in, and he had this hair and these eyes, and I was like, are you Marlon Brando or are you Oakley? And he actually got worked into it a little more and with the beatbox scene and things. But that was one where you're kind of like, we're heading in a direction. We can't afford to like totally reinvent the wheel, but also, can Oakley come back tomorrow? We're going to be in the Fun Hub, like get him in there. And I was like, if any shot that kid's in, the movie is just better.
Well, your breakdancers were spot on too.
Yeah. Oh, and the breakdancers, we definitely put a call out and got some of them. And Marcello took some breakdance lessons to try to get a little better. And then, like I said, we did a summer camp with Jimmy Pelletier, who's a skateboard ping pong guy in DC. And in Rockville, we had a 2-day crash course ping pong camp. And Andy, actually, Dale, the kind of bad sidekick, was the best of everyone at ping pong. Yeah.
Oh, at ping pong?
Yeah. He really got it with his backhand and stuff. But so I was trying to make it, I think that's the other thing of like trying to make it feel as fun. There was one day because these kids had never been on a set, you know, it's film.
Yeah.
So like it's always the stakes are high. So I felt like that was more my job to keep, and I think it is even for seasoned actors, try to keep everyone feeling calm. But one day when we shot at the house, the owner, the husband was down with it and the wife was not, kind of, but they let it happen. And we sent them away for a week. We're like, your house will be back as it is.
Was that the couple where the old man was shitting in the sink? Or
That's my dad.
yeah,
That's my parents.
that's amazing.
That's my parents. My Irish
Was he like,
conservative.
"That's the
Irish.
one I wanna
John
do"?
Hanna wears my dad's Maryland State Police actual uniform. My dad was a Maryland State
No
Trooper.
shit.
John Hanna wore that. So that was another day where I'm watching them eat lunch. And John Hanna's in the police
Your
uniform. My
dad's
dad's talking to
uniform.
him, and I was like,
And then your dad's
"Is
like
this,
shitting in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, but no, it was the house where they live at the opening, like the Mount Airy house before they
right,
go to
right.
the beach. So you don't meet anyone there except for the kids and the parents. But the homeowners, the while we were shooting on the day, they came back, and the
They
wife
wanted to be home.
freaked out. Was just like, my home is been destroyed. You know, like the thing where you're like, we're gonna have an issue, stay away and come back, and if there's an issue, we'll deal with it. And it was the one day where Emmy came up to me, again, 15-year-old, she had acted a little bit, but still was new to sets, and was just like, today feels different. Why does today feel
wow.
different? You know, it was just this alchemy of the energy of the set. And I couldn't actually, that day, I couldn't transcend the awkwardness. And I was like, just hang in there. I'm like, some sets, this is a good day. So like,
Yeah.
and since then, she went to just graduated from NYU and is producing. Oh, I'm supposed to watch her rough cut. She's produced her first feature, and Marcello actually is also in film production. So like, I was sort of apologizing to the parents as I'm like getting
That you've
older and
left the
wondering why I
kids.
didn't have a plan B or whatever. But they're like, thank you for, inspiring them. And I was like, but did I?
Did
Was
I?
that the right call? But it was a really pleasant experience to the extent where they're all like, yeah, we want to do this for a living.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
good or
have
bad.
you keep in touch with everyone, do you think?
Yeah, it's been a while. Emmy was here for South by Southwest, so I just actually saw her for the first time in years. And then Marcello and Miles. It's been a while now. I have a 4 and a 1-year-old, so I'm like, I barely talk to my wife.
Yeah.
So like talking to the people I've directed, it's been a while, but I try to keep up.
That's why you're like, yes, I'll do it. I'll do it. Whenever you guys want me to come.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll do it.
Talk on a podcast?
Yeah, sure.
People will listen, I get to talk.
Can I get out? up
Adults
there?
that I get to talk to?
Yeah, gaga goo goo, boo 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 boo. We're getting into language with the little one, so it's getting real fun. But
When you're out of hair jail, you use applesauce.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other day I was like, that is a style tip, man. He was just like, I was like holding in place. I'm like, applesauce works.
This is my day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's talk a little bit about your casting process and how you
Yes.
make decisions and how you go about it and what you like about it, just sort of.
I feel like it's very instinctual for me. It's very gut of like, or even to say Heather with you and the Jack Ingram project that we did, I just felt right away. I was like, Heather and Jack, I feel like there's, this. So a lot of it is, but then with like the Irish film, I made a film in Ireland called Don't Leave Home a few years ago. And that was going out to certain actors. But a case of gut instinct. I'd gone out to a comedian, David McSavage, who's in the movie. He plays the butler, and I reached out to someone to ask about him, and who had directed him, who had met at a festival, and he was like, "Well, he's a comedian. He's not an actor. Like, not just saying is like his energy level is maybe different than trained actor." And he's like, "But there's this one guy, Lala Roddy, that I've worked with. That I'm telling you, he's the best actor I've ever worked with in my life." And I hadn't heard of Lawler, and I looked him up, and right away looking at him, I was like, oh man. And then we sent the script to him, and I did a little meeting, and it was just right away. It was like, oh my God, you're the person. So that was one.
This is Don't Leave Home, right? So speak a little bit about that. Like, this is a film that you made in Ireland. And so was Anna Margaret the lead actress? Was she your only stateside actor, and then everybody else was cast in Ireland? How do you cast and crew and everything?
Yeah, with the crew, it started, I brought cinematographer, production designer, Wyatt Garfield, Bart Mangrum, And then Ryan Zacharias and George Rush are my American producers typically. And then Ryan at the time, his girlfriend, Amy is a hair makeup artist. So we were able to bring, because we're like, oh, that'll save on housing if Ryan and Amy are living together, just kind of cut that corner, in some ways, even though every little bit helps. And then the rest was really, we partnered with an Irish production company who did a lot of the crewing over there, and then just kind of interviewing people. And then with Anna Margaret, I mean, all these movies, and Anna Margaret wouldn't be feel insecure here, is like, initially it was a $2 million movie, going to bigger names, playing the game, and then as years go by, it took about 4 or 5 years, and we said, what can we make this for that doesn't feel like I'm skimping and kind of like, oh, I wish I had more and this isn't worth doing. So we ended up getting whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars versus millions. And at that point, as the budget came down, I was like, I just felt like Anna Margaret was the right energy for that. And I was like, and I think with the money being maybe not so high stakes or whatever, and then trying to sell it as genre, even though it's not really a horror movie, trying to just say like, can we just cast someone that I trust that I think is going to be good?
Yeah. And
but if it had been 2 million, I think that conversation, as you know, goes unfortunately very different.
Talk about that a little bit.
Just that conversation.
Yeah.
Well, you tell me, Mr.
I can tell
Professional.
you,
yeah. Where's this fucking blue book that everyone seems to know except for me?
Sales companies, what people's value is in different territories across the world. And
so they do have a literally.
You can get estimates from a sales company, and that it's bankable. You can go get loans off of it.
Do you think that's changed? I mean, I know.
I think it
is
like changing.
You guys did that with David stuff, the Austin stuff, right? Or with like.
That was my first with David. It was with like Joe. It was like we did it for so low with that name. There's so much value in the name. He was like, we don't have to worry about it. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah,
I was like, somebody's gonna at some point.
It was my name, right?
Yeah.
That was a totally greenlit the whole thing.
Yeah,
You just had me. You didn't need
It's I was like, at some point, someone's gonna say, you guys can't do this. He's like, no, keep going. And I was like, at some point, right? Someone's gonna, because we had homeless people. We had
I mean,
and I was like,
gamut.
someone's gonna call us and say, you guys can't do this. And he's like, nope, keep going.
Yeah.
So we were just covered,
Yeah.
Which I will say too, like the homeless guy, what was his name?
Gary.
Yeah.
Who he passed.
Yeah.
He was really incredible.
He's great. Yeah,
it was. I mean, it was a great performance.
You can't fake.
You managed to get.
And then the Sam's Barbecue guy, right?
Yeah.
I forget his name now, but I know when David had met him, and it's just like, you can't fake these accents and these energies,
I remember
right?
we were sitting around a table, and they're like, "Where are we gonna get these day workers from?" And I was like, "Day Labor Center."
Yeah. Outside Home Depot?
Yeah, I was like, I just went to Day Labor Center and just was like, we interviewed everybody there,
Yeah.
And they were awesome.
It just some things just come with a texture that's really hard to recreate.
Yeah.
Well, for that one, my main thing was like, I'm from small town Texas. I was like, I want it to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then David's so good at just like, the thing is at that point is just make the person be comfortable. Like you're putting them in a position that you trust this is the right fit. So their job isn't to like do anything, you know.
He's
and
great.
He can like charm that like telephone pole over there, and just be like, yes, I'll do whatever you want for me.
He's great at making people feel comfortable making it work. Because I remember even for like a lot of the day laborers, they didn't even know Nicholas was in it, and that was he got in the truck and they were like, oh my God. Yeah.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
My favorite was they were at some fancy restaurant over off South Congress, and it was David, Gary, and Nicholas. And I imagine everyone at that place was like,
what is happening in this?
I remember David telling me, I don't think it's hyperbole or David being David, but they went to a dive bar, and then someone came up to him and was like, hey man, I just want to say like it was like a biker guy to Nicolas Cage. It's like, hey man, I just want to say like Captain Corelli's Mandolin is like my favorite movie, and he's like, thank you. He thought he'd be like The Rock or something.
Oh
yeah.
God.
But yeah, with that, I think it's just harder, as you know, is like the that battle always of like putting a name versus not a name, or being like, the movies I like to watch are kind of, I mean, I watch everything and I like great acting, but like the movies that have discoveries and people who are not actors are as exciting to me. So it's just my nature.
There's a sweet spot for sure.
Yeah,
You know?
I think so.
Yeah.
And mixing, and then if you're doing it within the film, which kind of Ping Pong Summer and that, it's just an alchemy where, again, I'm proud of it, and I'm not self-deprecating about it or anything, but like the sense that it wasn't a pop of Sundance, you know, in a way that it could have been, because it had all the right ingredients, might have been that alchemy of just being like, you know, I think Will Oldham actually, when he was like, that's the most experimental movie I've seen in 5 years. Or he wrote me after he went in Louisville when it opened, and he said something just to be like, it felt like almost like a sensory, you know, like an experience of visiting more than, and I mean, taking chance of the things that you do that you're not supposed to is like, before the finale in Ping Pong Summer, the dad sits down and says, we'll love you no matter what, even if you lose. So it's like infinitely cutting the stakes right away, right? Or trying to, in a way that I was like, I want to put that into the world, rather than the like, you better come home with a W, or, you know, or whatever. It just wasn't honest for my experience. But choices like that I 1,000% stand behind. At the same time, I could see maybe how they undercut the kind of like movie aura of it or something.
But I don't think so either. But it's nice that you, having like owned those things and stuck to what you valued, so then it doesn't matter when it
doesn't matter. Yeah,
it still feels like a W to you, right? Still feels like a win. Because did you, when you went out for casting, like, or when you do go out for casting, are you looking for someone? Like, do you have a specific someone or something in mind that you're trying to find, or are you more ambiguous about it? We've talked to other people who are like, as much as I love the 10 people who played these roles, I can think of 10 other people who would play them just as well. And then there's other people who are like very specific.
See, I don't think for this, I was thinking about that. And for this, I feel like it had to be this.
What, Ping Pong Summer, you're saying?
Yeah,
yes.
Ping Pong Summer. It had to be this
had to be
group.
kind of cobbled together the way it was.
Yeah, it had to be this group of people, because it was just so balanced, so perfect.
But a former director would have said, I could think of 5 other actors who could have played Roddy, or sorry, I can't remember her name, Susan Sarandon's role.
Oh yeah, Randy Jammer.
Randy Jammer could have played Randy Jammer with their own version of it.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like that's one where
what was it?
Is it
the
ball making contact? The ball making contact.
Oh man. But no, I think now I'm with you on that of like, this is, you know, these are the choices we made. This is the film we made, hypothetical. Whereas someone did, like Don't Leave Home, I definitely was open with the the Irish characters. I was kind of open to seeing what people would bring. I still feel like I'm at a place where it's a kind of a desperate outreach for anyone to kind of be in your film.
Who will come play with me?
Yeah, who will come play. So I don't know what it's like to be on the other side of like, I could just maybe put the word out that something new's cooking and everyone's going to be like coming to show up at the coffee shop. But so I really do think it's project dependent.
I've worked in some offices with some high profile directors, and it's like, you know, it's like they say, you know, a name. I'm like, yeah, you guys got him. Like, you got it, whoever you want. Like, your job's easy. Yeah. Like, all you got to do is make the phone call.
Yeah.
That's where, like, even
like when people say, "Oh, casting's so great," I'm like, they pick anybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just like if you're working on a certain level with someone, it's like just picking. I think it's where you're like, maybe I don't even know if you do it, of like, could I have some to spice up your job or whatever, is like to do, like, if it's kids or whatever, and you say, oh, we have at least a few that are going to be not just make a phone call and we got the gig booked or whatever, you know?
I mean, everybody calls me to do like walk the streets and nationwide searches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't mean to get niched into that world, but it seems like a lot of times they're like, we want to discover people, which it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but Cast Station is known as,
we do real people casting.
Yeah, we do real people casting.
Yeah.
And that's what even when I started, you know, when we went to this COVID and I helped other, John and Carmen, you work for John and Carmen. Yeah. They do good people. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna put them on the list. And I'm like, I have no idea what the job's about, But I'm like, y'all about to get a call, and I'm
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
street.
No, I mean doing the other, making the offers, and we do all that too. It's a much simpler process. It's like you play this game of create this list, and then you just start checking, putting offers
Yeah.
out and checking schedules and seeing if they're into it.
Yeah.
It's like
Did you worry about any of your offers? Like maybe Leah Thompson's going to turn up and shit the bed, or you never like
No, I wasn't worried about. I don't think I'm trying to think of.
because nobody read for you, right? Of the
No,
offers. those people.
no reading. Almost even the kid. Well, we did with the kids a little bit, but I would
I
say
mean,
even
like the big names.
yeah.
They didn't read for you.
No.
Right.
But I'm saying even when it comes to like non-professional casting, I wouldn't put necessarily be like, gotta get you in a room with lines. Like it's very organic to me to be like comfort level, trust. Are we on the same page? Are we having the same conversation? And then putting a lot of faith and trust in that happening. I mean, in Don't Leave Home, I'll say this isn't. I'm not speaking out of turn, but Helena Breen, who's incredible as Shelley, who plays the kind of
Oh yeah, she was.
yeah,
great.
she's awesome. She on her last day had her big monologue, and she's from the theater also. So that was another thing where I thought, oh, if you're in the theater, you'll have your lines memorized more easily. That was just me maybe being ignorant. And it could be, it's the same thing. But Shelley on the day kind of went blank. And, she was she again wasn't doubling down and being like, it's all your fault. Like a lot of actors or other people, crew members just blame someone else. She was kind of like, fuck Michael. Fuck Michael. I don't know where, and like, it's okay, it's okay, we'll work it out. And then Wyatt, the DP, actually really helped on that, where he was like, we'll do a take from behind and go through the blocking, and then we'll do wild lines, and then we'll also get as many takes from front and piece it together, in a way that I was like, oh man, that's really
That's
smart. I don't
brilliant.
know if I would have thought of that.
Yeah, because I had
Yeah.
no idea. Like, I didn't trust her the moment I saw her. So
Oh,
when
you
she
did?
was bigger, yeah.
And also we started with that low angle up to give it that
Yeah.
little gothic, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
eyebrow, like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah,
my
her
gosh,
eyebrows are
I
yeah.
mean, theater's also like a month of rehearsals.
That's
so,
the other thing is,
Yeah.
so it's not just like, oh, I remember it the night before. It's like, it's
There's
wrote at
time.
that point. You're just like, it's in your brain ingrained.
Yeah.
But so anyway, she did great, and she got it, and she's so good. And we got it that way. We got there together. But the crazy thing with that was, the Irish crews are just incredible. Like it's militaristic in a way, and they only do 10-hour days. So we were shooting, effectively it was 20 days, but for what we were used to US, it was like 17 and a half days. And we had like hundreds of scenes. It was like, and it seemed like an impossible situation. But what it was we would just sprint for 5 hours, an hour break, sprint for 5 hours, and be done. Like pretty much 8 to 7 or whatever it was. Like almost most of the time, we had 1 or 2 splits. But that day, Helena, when I was like, Helena, do not worry about the language because we're behind you. We can't see you, but it's all about the blocking going through. She went on some like stream of consciousness poem. I don't know what it was, but the words that were coming out were not the dialogue. And it was to the extent where the crew was like pissing themselves. Like our gaffer's always usually the one who's like, everyone's
Yeah.
laughing. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Was like, our script supervisor, who was again talking about these militaristic crews, are like, you never, hierarchy, all these things that I'm not usually like that, but I respect it. But she like snorted because she couldn't stop laughing.
Oh my
So it was
God.
this like cathartic moment for everyone, including Shelley. Like we weren't laughing at her. She was also in on it, kind of like, this is absolutely insane. But it was one of those moments that ends up being like, uh-oh, at lunch, we're like, what are we going to do? And try to turn it and salvage it in a way. But again, that's not throwing her under the bus. It was, she was in the moment. She was like, I don't know what happened. I had the lines. She had them the whole shoot. And just this day, something happened, And then I think it's our job to not freak out and just say like,
Yeah.
how can we make this work? Another one in Don't Leave Home was it was a small crew, and it was written that way because it's a small budget or small cast. The little girl, we really only had a few auditions that came in via the casting, being the producers there.
So just real quickly, did you just you were in America watching tapes of Irish actors?
No, that was when I was over there. So we were about 6 weeks. I went over there. I think we were 6 weeks out. We went
and
over.
had some casting sessions.
Yeah, and
in
had
person.
casting in addition to meetings and locations. And we were kind of just like embedded there. The Americans were outside Dublin and we just kind of dove in. But this little girl who had never officially acted before, and I was just doing it on my phone, just kind of like trying to keep it chill. And there were a few others who were nervous, as they should be, whatever. And then this other one, she's like, I'm sorry. Just said something in a way. And I was like, what? The only time in like 17 and a half, 18 days, or 20 days total, I guess, that Anna Margaret broke character or kind of dropped a line in like 20 days. She just was like, nailed it every time, could do variation, whatever. But like, was when the little girl spoke to her the first time.
Oh gosh.
She just was like, line? Like the girl, like
Was
this
that
little
the scene at the end?
Yeah, it was when she meets her at the end. We shot that very
Yeah.
early on, actually.
Oh,
We shot
right.
the ending early, which is also good
And
because
she's
it was
like,
like,
all of us?
I know.
yeah.
I knew, and I knew.
She's like,
I
I'm
knew.
here to take you home.
but so
all
that
of
was
us?
another case of in the casting, I was like, wow, you are, I don't
Yeah.
know if you want to do this or not. It's all subjective. So but I just got a sense. And then when she showed up on set and did the one line, yeah, it was literally in 20 days, the only time Anna Margaret was like, can we do another stop?
could
She
see
was
her
just
doing
like
that. She was
shocked
like,
out of her
My
skin.
brain just broke. What happened? We have to go again.
And that's when you know you're just like, okay, I think we cast properly here.
Yeah.
So was that the only? So you guys planned to go over there for 6 weeks and do location, do casting? Was that the only time you did it before you came home, got ready, and went back and shot?
No, we went right into the shoot. So for about a year or
Oh.
two, I'd been going over there for meetings, and I met Lawler and Helena. But the other thing was the location that we had actually fell through right when we were getting on the plane to
The
go over
house?
the house, which is kind of the whole shoot. That's the
Yeah.
whole movie. It was going to be in Wicklow and like where they shoot most of the Irish films and right south of Dublin. And as we were going over there, they're like, oh, that first weekend of the shoot, there's a small music festival. And I was like, well, what do you mean? You know, I'm picturing like
small? Like some
bagpipes or like,
mandolins
yeah,
and
like some mandolins. It was an EDM festival
Oh,
of like 8,000 people.
No way! Everyone's
So I
tripping
was like,
balls.
we're not gonna even on the opening weekend, it's enough to derail a 20-day shoot. So the location completely fell through. So then we had to find another one that ended up being that house that was perfect, and the homeowners even kind of like took ownership and kind of were like, Charlie was fixing the water for the rain day. He's like, I'll fix you up. I'm gonna get the water pipe going. You know, like everyone was in on it. But that was the thing where when you go over and you're like, well, at least we have the location.
Right, and then you're like,
EDM
"Whoa."
festival, 8,000
Of
people.
all
Like, what?
things. Like,
I think that's where it just after you do enough of these, you're like, it'll work out.
yeah,
Yeah,
it'll work
yeah,
out,
yeah.
right?
We're gonna-
It
Yeah,
just
we'll
does.
figure it out. It
Yeah.
has
We'll
to.
figure it out.
Yeah. So, and again, that was just, it was controlled. That was written to be, you know, understanding the logic of this is a small film. And then we came back here for 2 days to shoot the American portion.
Right.
But that was where actually, I didn't feel like it was going to work out because the art gallery we didn't have. So it was on a Monday. So we had 1 week off. We wrapped the movie. That's a weird feeling when you talk about being nervous or overwhelmed. The past 3 things I've shot, I've woken up in the middle of the night with like, it's not even leg cramps. It's like the whole lower half of my body is like bone cramping, or it's very hard to explain. But like with the Suzanne Vega film we did here, Lover Beloved, I think I'm like physically suppressing any nervous energy to be like, this is great, we're having fun. And I also don't sit down like our AD over in Ireland, who's now doing like Normal People and Game of Thrones and like huge stuff. Like I probably wouldn't be able to get him now. He was like, you're the most hands-on, like you don't sit down, man. And you're like helping lift stuff. And
That
I was
is
just
true.
like, I can't, you know, it's like, I'm not going to just sit over there in the corner. But now I think I might need to sit over there in
Yeah.
the corner or drink more water. So I think I'm like, it's really important to me to create the atmosphere that it's all calm and
It's all
everyone's
good.
happy.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, it's damaging to live off that anxiety and those nerves for too long.
fortunately, I only direct once every 9 years.
Now you say, I can feel my legs. Something's wrong.
Yeah. I don't have. Yeah, it's very hard to describe. There was one morning where I think the three of us, Bart, the production designer, was across the hall in this Dublin apartment we were in, and he was cramping up, and I was. So I was like at 4. It was like in the room across the hall. I think all of us were just like, getting the nerve cramp.
Well, so like on a side note, what do you think about that? 10-hour days or 14-hour days? How did it
by
feel?
the end, Wyatt Garfield, DP, and I were
You
all
were like, this is the
we're
way
a
to go
believer. Yeah.
in the 10-hour day?
We worked really fast. But again, those Irish crews, like from the very first day, I didn't set this mode. I think it was Cedric, or not Cedric, Dara, the AD. Rolling, action, stop, turn, look away, look down, no eye contact, like no, the crew just immediately, like it was just somehow in their DNA to like
That's
look down in a way,
badass.
respect, like crazy stuff that I was like, oh, I just assume like everyone's gonna try to be cool and
That's
Right? Why do we both
I'm
look at
having
each other
like some kind of epiphany. If
Yeah.
I felt that energy in the room,
Yeah.
that would instantaneously help me get from A to B faster.
yeah.
Because half of what I'm doing is like blocking people out. There's like 50 people in
Yeah.
a room.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's kind of rad.
Yeah, and I don't know if again they just trained that. I don't think
It
he
started
gave them
with
Seems
like,
like they
it started with
trained
like the
it.
first film, right? And then it just kind of they were
yeah,
like, this is how we
it
do
felt
it.
like an industry
Yeah.
thing. So there was something to be said for. I really liked the crewing situation there, and I would definitely. Yeah, like George, I was like, what about this strike stuff? He's like, it's a dumpster fire. Let's go back to Ireland and see what we can get going pretty quickly. But no, I had a really good time. But there was something about the cruise there that was just
Someone in their
really
history is a
great.
maniac.
Yeah.
That was just like, this is how we're doing it.
Yeah, it was like Peter O'Toole or
Yeah,
someone who's
exactly.
like, or whatever. And then everyone's like, and then for the next 20 years, everyone's
Jesus,
like
anytime
looking
there's
up.
a speed.
It's actually called the Peter O'Toole.
Yeah. We use the Peter O'Toole
O'Toole.
method over here.
I'm over here like trying to picture the boom.
That would be amazing.
Right? And
Well,
you're trying to
Boom,
take it.
some,
I would
yeah, that's
love
funny
that.
because
You
I'm
know what I
thinking
mean?
Boom actually had. I mean, they're doing
They're
something
looking at
different,
the
but they're
camera
also like
frame.
somehow it was still it was
It
in a
worked,
respectful,
obviously,
controlled
yeah.
way. That I think like our
That's so
crews here.
cool.
Well, again, there's great crews. It depends on who you're working with here.
Were the casting sessions over there the same?
It was really minimal at that point because we had so few. Like David McSavage had been cast, and Helena and Lawler, and then it was just the girl. Like I'm trying to think even. Oh, and then the parliamentary figures, the British, the masked, and
Oh, all those guys.
The
that
auction-
was
the
a
auction.
scene. That was one of those like this is kind of like a Veep or something, or one of those shows that was the French actor show. There, my dad is one of them. So my dad's from Ireland, so I have Irish citizenship. So that's also why I kind of wanted to make a movie over there. So my uncle Mark, his brother, flew from London. So two of them were like Tullys, and then the other ones were just these random extra casting guys. But they were having so much fun where I would just walk past and I'd be like, I wish I was just hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Like, one of them got up and was the producer's dad, just walked into the woods to pee, but tripped. And it was just kind of like, but in that outfit.
it
And
was
just,
like wigs.
it was
and...
very surreal happening. And that night that we were shooting them walking out into the bus and it was raining,
They're all holding.
Wyatt was looking at me like, Are we really doing it? Is someone
this
giving
Eyes
us
Wide
money
Shut?
to do?
Right.
Yeah.
It was
But so the
very-
casting, it definitely was different because it was really, I think, I'm trying to think about it. It may have only been the little girl role that I actually had to.
But was it like a
That's-
similar scenario? Like they come to a room?
Yeah, they came to the production office. I went into a small room with each of them without anyone, and their parents were outside. And I think one of them actually, though, the mom was in, and I was not going to say, you can't come in. I let them decide. And it was just, again, meeting at someone. That was lines, though. I did have them kind of do the lines. And this one, she just absolutely nailed it. It's like, we're done here. I don't need to see anyone else. And that's just instinct, because then you're like, yeah, how does all this stuff work? It's kind of subjective. You commit to it.
And so have you ever had anybody on the day show up and kind of shit the bed for you where like you're like, I thought we had this nailed and now you're over here doing something totally weird that I can't correct?
How can I tell this story? Because I think this is maybe my best directing actor story without throwing anyone under the bus. There was a day player who didn't have a line in one of the movies I've made that may have been spoken about here today.
Okay, this is working. This is working well.
And they kind of have to just sort of walk over somewhere, like kind of walk over here, and then the actor interacts with them, but there's not an exchange. And we did our rehearsrsal, and
You did an audition, or you just
no.
You just
This
found
was cast because here's where you're like, this person doesn't speak. All you
That guy.
wardrobe perfect. This is
Yeah.
absolutely
Okay.
perfect. The walk over and the performance was like giving 9 different, like, did you trip? Are you running? Are you skipping? What? To the point
What is
where this
happening?
is the like this is rehearsal on the day, so we're getting ready to shoot. And I was like, okay, rehearsal's up. The person does this. The entire crew looks at me, just turns and looks at me like. And I was
You
like,
do know that walking is one of the hardest things for an actor to do.
Yeah.
Like unself-consciously.
it wasn't just the walking. I was like, okay,
What
here
is
I'm
this?
earning the big bucks. That might have been my shit my pants moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the easy one. This is the
Yeah.
day that I'm like checked
Yeah.
out. So
This is
my
the damn
trick,
checked out.
It
and
was
this
supposed to
is
be.
what I
Well,
keep.
yeah, you think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You're like, this
Yeah,
is
like,
what-
and then
This is the
it's
last thing I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to worry about.
Yeah.
And then you
now I'm
work
like,
harder than ever
oh my
before.
god, this is the hard. This is what I'm getting paid the huge bucks for.
Yeah.
So what I did was, again, we were shooting film, but we were trying to do. I mean, I'm not a even if someone was like, you could do 70 takes today, I'd be like, why the fuck would you do 70 takes? I just had never. It's not in my nature. So doing 4 to 6 kind of was the zone. 3 to 6. So what we do was,
two on this one. It should have been.
Right. In my mind, I was
If
like
not
more
one.
than 3.
Yeah, it should have been 2 as the safety.
Yeah.
And you
but,
can't cut this.
It just was.
It's important.
It's the walk. It made the whole.
Well, yeah,
It's-
it sets the
it
scene
has
of the
to-
environment is here. I'm trying to.
Got it. No, you're good. You're good.
So, what I did was I said nothing other than that's awesome. Let's go.
Do it again.
Let's roll camera. Do it. That was so good. Okay, so we have that one. That's great. So now let's try just a little.
So you're thinking,
just-
I got to get this guy comfortable, or girl, I got to get them
and it
comfortable
took
and
4.
relax.
And by the 4th one, I was like, now just for hyper safety, we have it. We have that first one that's incredible. Just literally just walk up, and then turn when he says something, and then skedaddle. And it was absolutely perfect. And then the art director Bob came up to me. He goes, "I think you just taught that person how to act."
I think
But it
you
was
may
like-
have
Well, it's a
done.
good trick. It's also, oh wait, we got to change the light, or we got to just so they don't implode on themselves.
Yeah, because the
Or-
instinct is, I mean, the entire crew was looking at me like,
yeah.
oh God,
no,
oh God.
DEFCON,
And
you
rather
gotta
than
fix
going
this.
into like David O. Russell or,
Yeah.
I don't have firsthand experience,
But
but I have
horror
some
stories
experience.
of fear,
Just
I've heard.
like not going to 100, let it settle, let that happen. And the same thing happened with, even to the extent where, say, there's like an insert of, whatever, like the foot going down, and we needed to get that insert. It was like, how is this foot performance so distractingly not working? I didn't think that was possible. Same deal of like, now let's just do one totally for safety.
That is
And
good
then you're
instincts,
like-
man. It's really smart because that person already is just
Right.
at a 9 in nerves.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel
I
like
think, the thing is, I think it was a 9 in confidence,
Oh wow.
which was a
That's
little,
even
a little
scarier.
more,
scarier,
yeah, it was
right?
a little more.
Shit, I think you've used this line of directing on me now. That I think. Don't worry. It sounds really familiar. Okay, we've got that one. Now let's just try this.
I think everyone does it, but that was a very specific.
Let's just see the
example of-
foot just come in.
Yeah,
just see the
come in.
foot just come in.
Just come in.
Yeah,
Now
foot-
you're a
just foot.
cheerleader. Just
Yeah,
go for
yeah.
it. Whatever you want. It's fine. We got it.
But that's the other fun thing with directing is you're like, oh, today is an easy day, and then something
that's
comes
the
up where you're like, is
worst.
this turning into? How did this happen?
You're
and
like,
just trying to
"Shit."
stay. I just only work better. I mean, I've never worked better when someone yelled at me in any job I've had growing up. If someone
Right.
yelled at me, I would want to give them the finger and leave, but I probably wouldn't. But I would not be like, now I want to really do good for you.
Yeah.
Like, no. So I think it's important to just like create an atmosphere and let people, do what they're doing, whether it's actor or not. But have an answer ultimately, have an answer for every question.
Do you feel like auditioning is the best process for getting the actors you want in certain roles?
Oh, I would say no, kind of. Like I feel like meeting someone and talking to them for me personally, if they're a non-actor and never done it before, I do think maybe there's something to be like, can we play and try some stuff, not be like,
So yeah,
"Remember?"
we will go in and we'll just talk to him on camera, and then if we feel like there's something there, then we'll bring him in, and then we'll try to see if they can play.
So you just do an energy, like
Yeah,
just a
just
vibe,
energy
kind of
check.
like, what's your,
and just trying to talk to him a little bit, and then maybe I'll say, hey, try to say this to me, and we'll play around a little bit if I have a lot of confidence in him, and then we bring him in and we're like, let's see if they can actually do something.
And does that depend on like, are they doing something that might be out of that wheelhouse, or do you think at that point it's within?
I think it's just, I mean, it's as when you're walking around, it's just like you're just like pinged, you're like something's interesting about that, and I kind of have a sense of just energy and what I'm looking for, and then I get turned to somebody, and then it's that whole, hey, you want to be a movie, and they're like, you're full of shit, what do you want to sell me?
Yeah.
And then convincing them, get them comfortable, and then a lot of times you're just like, oh my god, they're amazing, and then they come in and you see if they can say some words that are not their own.
Yeah.
That sounds to me like a good,
Or
But
are they
I also
workable?
believe that them being able to just sit in a room by themselves and say some words isn't what we're actually hiring them to do.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to play off somebody, and so it's like it's I don't think the process is the best.
Yeah, and even like Mark's coverage, all that is like doesn't apply to, can you talk to this small camera in a room?
Yeah.
I think it's like,
Yes.
like with the kids, even that with training in Ping Pong Summer, I feel an itch coming on. That was really something of just trying to talk them through it, really.
Well, and that's the kind of
I'm
thing
not
where
crying,
like, no,
Heather.
you're good. You're good. You're good.
It just makes
You
me
do
so
you.
emotional
Go ahead,
to
cough.
talk
I'll
about
talk for a while.
casting.
It's some of those things are as an actor, they're things that you learn by fire. Like you don't know. Like I remember the day that I was on a mini series and had my first close-ups, and it had never occurred to me before for some reason, because you train to act with other actors and to play emotions and to create scenes and live life, but you don't necessarily train for the camera and whatnot. And so some of those things you only learn on the day. Whereas like,
I had
okay,
one
now we're
class.
turning for your coverage, and they're going to put a little piece of tape on the box, and that's the other actor, and I didn't know any of that was going to happen. And so that was like, oh, now I have to figure out how I act to a person who's not even there. In fact, the actor left.
A bunch of metal and a bunch of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Well, and the actor I'm actually in the
Yeah.
scene with went back to her trailer. And so now I'm just hearing the voice of some, PA or AD or whatever.
Yeah.
I said one, but I mean two. In undergrad, I had acting for TV and film, and that was the only time I ever worked with a camera. And I remember,
Really?
I remember our teacher, 'cause she was an actor, and she had told us, she's like, this is who you have to imagine. Like you have to.
That's so good.
And it's like, if I'm in love with you, I'm like trying to picture in my mind
Yeah.
while I'm staring down the lens. Though by the time I got out of school, we don't really always stare down the lens. Now we're like slightly off the lens.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's it. I just got it like a mini
Yeah.
lesson, and then graduated, moved to Austin, started training. There's no cameras in class, not in the classes I took.
Yeah.
So again, I'm getting used to
Yeah.
feeling like I'm back on stage. And then when I finally got on set, and there's this huge camera on the table,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Oh, shit.
this is a person. Remember, this is a
Yeah.
yeah. It's awkward.
Yeah. And those are skills that I imagine those kids
Yeah, we
didn't have
tried.
any.
We
of.
tried to have them, off camera, everyone was down, and they don't know any better, so they're not like, I can go to my trailer now, or not that they had a trailer,
Right.
but like, no, but even Susan Sarandon, everyone off camera, John and Leah, they were all kind of like, oh wait, if you need me. I've been fortunate enough to work with, I don't know of any actor.
That's good.
I don't think I've ever worked with actually anyone who's like, oh, I don't need to be here.
I mean, I think they always want it themselves, so it's like you
Yeah,
give
yeah,
to
yeah.
get, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that it's proven. With The Lover Beloved, the last film I did, that was Suzanne Vega doing is based on her one-woman show where she performs as the Southern writer Carson McCullers. So it's a one-woman monologue film. We had her not talking to camera, but off. So it was a C-stand with a tennis ball that we called Tennis Ball Williams instead of Tennessee Williams because he's referenced. So that just became a thing where it would be like stressful. I'd be like, tennis Ball Williams over here. She's like, yeah, that's perfect. But it's like you come up with that stuff. And that was a very different experience because that's literally she's talking to herself.
I feel like that's a lot like auditioning, right? It's
Yeah.
all in your head.
So like
You're-
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're having to create all of that.
I feel like it's not. I mean, again, you're as actors, it's different. And I'm trying to actually. I think it'll make me a better director to go on the other side of performing. With the little bit I've done, I enjoy it, but also like I think it only will make me a better director.
For sure,
Yeah.
it will. For sure. I did direct at some point, and I found it so hard to direct actors, and I didn't. I wasn't ready for. Like you thought this is the easy day, and you were checked out. I was like, it should be easy for me to direct actors, and then on the day, I was really struggling with like what to tell certain people to get certain things out of them.
Yeah.
I was like, why isn't this going? Why isn't this working? What am I doing?
Just have fun with it.
Yeah.
Great. Can we do that, but totally different?
Yeah.
Faster.
Faster.
But better.
Yeah.
Faster,
Just say
but
everything
better.
faster. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do another one, but better.
This time, don't suck. Yeah.
I've never said that.
No?
No.
You have to say that on your next one.
Yeah.
No, you seem smart, man, to like not draw attention to it and make them
Yeah.
feel comfortable. That's the main thing. Just if they get in their head.
Oh, it's
Then
over.
it's over.
Then it's totally
then they don't
over.
feel
It's
safe
over.
anymore,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they can't really play or relax.
Even with
Yeah.
Helena, who's a real pro, a pro actor who's been on the stage and gave it her all and was great and just had a day where she was like, admitted it. I was also so grateful that she wasn't doubling down because so many people I've seen who you feel challenged or you're nervous about something and then start lashing out that it's everyone else's fault or something. So trying to create a space where they know that they can be, feel free to admit that
It's a human moment.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people forget
I'm
actors are
human.
humans.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially like the crying or the heavy scenes, when you have those days and they know it's coming and there's all the pressure and the expectation is to cry and then they don't cry and then it's like, how do you get them there?
Yeah. Smack them, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Who was it that I read? Was it not Sidney Lumet? Someone did a smack and was like, I'm never going to do that again. And the actor was actually like, no, that worked. Thanks. That worked."
We're all
You
a
got
little
me there.
sadomasochist. We are actors. But, you would think that like creating all of that stuff in our heads, our imaginations as actors, that, I think that's what we're expected to be able to do in the audition process. And I don't know if maybe just some actors are just inherently capable of that and others like different. It's like different ingredients on a salad bar. But
I think so.
I mean, I feel like I am much better at reacting than I am to like conjuring up all this stuff on my own. It's very, very hard for me.
Yeah, it seems to me like auditioning is a very different skill set from being a good
It's totally a
actor.
different
Like
skill set.
I know there's some actors, I can't think of the names, but I know there's some that where I'm just like, they must be really good in the audition room. They're getting all these parts, but like I'm not totally maybe connecting with them as an actor or performer.
Or they might have millions of followers on Instagram.
Yeah, but even before that, I think, because we get taught like in class how to become an actor when we're training, and then you don't get taught the process of auditioning. And then when you have your first audition, you're thrown off. And I do believe it's a true skill to learn how to audition, and then you have to be able to perform on set. I think it's two different things
Yeah.
because
It's definitely two different
the
things.
atmosphere is totally different in an audition room versus if you're on set with your scene partner or
Yeah.
a
I mean, I
director.
think if people show up prepared and ready to play, and they make a strong choice, and then they're much better off than somebody that comes in that's trying to please, or
Oh yeah.
But that's the thing.
have tried to make a choice based on what they think it's about, and they bring something unique and they're ready to play. It's like we can get them
Yeah.
to where we got to get them. It's
Yeah.
like you got the fundamental thing that we're looking for, which is like you're here to play, you're prepared.
Yeah.
I think it does everyone a disservice when they don't prepare. Like they
But
just come to perform.
But
Yeah.
now there's audition courses. Like actors take classes to learn how to audition. So I mean, I agree with you, but not everyone can mentally do it. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, you gotta be real careful what class you take.
I that's true.
Also the class. Yeah.
That's true.
The class can.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, but I'm just saying
I mean,
they're
there's
out
a
there.
market there.
They're
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
there,
No, I'm
right?
saying.
You know?
Because it is a different
Yeah.
checklist you're going to want to maybe prepare.
Yeah.
But like you're saying also, John, is that it's like at the end of the day, you're showing up having made decisions and been prepared and showing an ability to be able to kind of like bend and go. That also is, if you don't have that there, then it's probably
Yeah.
not going to fly.
Did you find that you were intimidated to direct Susan Sarandon, or that you felt like you could direct her the same way you would do, or that you had to direct her, or you could just let her?
I
Like,
was
Did that seem different?
I usually, well, it's different because like Teddy definitely, his character needed to be like pumped
Supported.
up before, and Rad was more just conversation. I feel like saying every actor is different is just getting a sense by then of what you might need or want from them, and my hope is, I'm a big believer in like prep. So like the shoot itself should be kind of a machine that kind of is going. I mean, I know things come up or whatever, but that's what you're there for, to kind of adapt. But ideally, a lot of these decisions are made and you're working with an actor where you're like, I know, you might know this character better than I do. I'm a big believer in that, to be like, I'm not here to actually tell you the idea of puppeteer directing or whatever. So if it's something, and even with lines, I'm not as precious anymore. If there's something that's really important, I would hopefully stress that before the day, to be like, this part is really important. This other stuff, if you want to paraphrase, whatever, just communicating in advance as much as possible to let an actor kind of like, but then again, some actors might want more, and hopefully, again, I figured that out by then, but before being on the day. I mean, McSavage, David, who's a comedian, he definitely, by the end, at first he's a comedian, so like comedians are kind of like, I was like, is he gonna knock the soup over? Like almost like Sacha Baron Cohen or something, of like, is he
Yeah.
gonna punk us? Because it's like his nature is to like, a comedian's nature is to like change the frequency in a room and get
Yeah.
everyone for better and worse, in a way.
Yeah.
But by the end, like I had him, we did a take a few times and he was literally doing it like an actor every single time and everything. And it was, again, just kind of like letting him be himself a little bit within that. But I just think all actors are different. And I'm a big believer in communicating in advance as much as possible, so that like you should never be on set when I'm teaching directing of like, mine was the one, my example is the like sort of featured extra who didn't even have a line, where I'm like, this is nothing I have to worry about. I shouldn't have had to audition this person.
Yeah.
And then, oh God, and then you have to kind of pivot or whatever. But main actors especially, I feel like it's a lot about trust and kind of like letting them do what they're doing. Like I like, as a director, when I'm watching takes, and whether it's on monitor or just watching it live, of like, feel like I'm watching the movie, like pretend every take is like, this is the movie this is the cut that's gonna, the take that's gonna make it. Do I feel like I'm lost in it, rather than being like, did they do that right or not right?
Yeah.
And
Especially when you're just making offers and you're just people reading scripts, that communication beforehand is just super, super important, because sometimes that's the first time you're going to see the words come out of their mouth, is when they're on set.
Yeah. And if you're a big believer, like I produced a film, and the writer director, I don't think any of us knew how exact he wanted. So I was saying, later on, towards the end of the shoot, I was like, if and when you do this again, you should do this again. In the casting call, put, and you could even speak to this if you guys agree, but I think put like, I'm very particular, the script, I want it to be every word verbatim. And then you as an actor could decide, like, fuck that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm bringing myself to it and I don't care about that. Or someone would say, no, I really like that. I want to. But you're doing that in advance. So you're weeding it out and you're not on the day where the actor maybe paraphrases a but or that doesn't matter in the grand scheme
I've
but
seen
to a
that in
director.
notes from my agent. I've seen that before. Like,
See,
so
we
when my
have-
agent sends me the thing, it'll say, like, stick to the script. It's very important that you
Yeah.
deliver the script exactly.
I don't
Yeah.
think I've
We'll have
had
trouble
that
the
yet.
other way. We'll tell them to throw the script out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then they won't. They just make it your own. Let's see what you can come up with.
That's
And
what
they
I
do the
get more.
script
They
exactly.
do the script, and we'll say it again. And I'm like, he wrote it. Like, he's saying, don't worry about
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah,
let
yeah,
it go. You know,
yeah.
like, we want to play with it. Like, this is
Yeah.
what you're reading right now is not going to even be what you're going to say on the day. Like, it's changing. You know.
That's
And-
also is something for sure.
Yeah, and it's, people need to hold on to it so tight.
Yeah. But that's a sign also of
It
like
is.
a nervousness to be like, oh wait, if you're clinging to that when we're telling you don't cling to that,
Then-
Yeah.
then maybe, you know, not to say for sure, but also that is maybe a little bit of a
I
red
mean, we'll come
flag.
up with stuff that's just to see how far we can push them, just to see how far they're willing to go, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just a sign of just like, okay, we can take this person anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'll often read with people and I'll just be pushing and kind of pulling and kind of seeing, okay, I can adjust, they can move with the energy and stuff like that. And actors, sometimes they think that I'm like trying to act, but it's like, no, I'm trying to dance with you and I'm trying to see, can you move? Are you adjustable? Are you flexible? You know?
Yeah.
If I throw this at you, are you going to receive it? Are you going to be able to give it back to me?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's like with Joe. I feel like that was one of my memorable auditions that I really enjoyed, was because once we got through the words,
Yeah.
you know, you and I just improvised
Yeah.
and David just let it play.
Yeah.
And things come out of that,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I remember sitting, I think I filmed like 20 minutes of someone sitting in a chair chewing gum. Just was fascinated by it. I was like, no, just keep chewing.
Now it's lost 8% of its flavor. Keep chewing.
Keep chewing. Yeah.
It just got another boost.
Maybe I just needed lunch I was eating or something.
You're like a sicko. You didn't hire him, did you?
I think we did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we did.
Well, good.
Yeah.
That was gum chewer number
Yeah,
4. in the
Yeah.
credits, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Did
Well,
we solve
yeah.
it? Did we solve
So-
the mystery?
I think we've solved all the mysteries of the universe, MICHAEL TULLY. Thank you for being here.
Such
guys.
a
This
good
was
job,
It
man.
was
I
fun to
mean-
talk to adults.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's
And
really
for me,
weird.
I mean-
also very much a parent, it's fun to talk art and creative
Yeah,
things
talk-
because, like, I just do so much life management right
Yeah.
now, and so it's great to like talk to fellow thespians
And to remember
fellow-
that I've done this. I made
yeah,
some
remember
stuff.
that
Yeah,
you had
thanks,
another
guys.
life beyond your child.
I mean, I'm pushing Ping Pong Summer onto my kids and everybody that like thinks they know the 80s.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
Like,
I think we should
I-
do a big re-release.
I think we should. Like, I think people don't.
I don't think people know about
Stranger
it.
Things isn't the 80s.
No.
Ping Pong Summer was the.
Yeah.
That was. I mean,
I mean, it's already coming up on 10 years. I mean,
Is it really?
Almost 2024
Well, yeah.
will be
Yeah.
the 10-year anniversary, which is like, whoa. Yeah, so maybe.
Let's do it.
I mean.
I'm here
it's-
for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should have. We'll have a big reunion.
Let's talk to
We'll get-
Alamo. Let's do an 80s night.
Yeah.
Yes. Get Robert Longstreet in a room and
Oh my, get
everything
him spray
will
tanned
be,
up.
Get him spray tanned up.
Oh man.
I love that guy. I love you, Robert. Let's do something together.
Yeah, he just texted me the other night and I was
Did
like,
he?
we gotta get the gang back together one of these years.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Gotta figure out this paperwork stuff though first, I guess, with everyone.
What?
WGA and
Oh,
SAG and all
yeah.
that stuff.
We'll figure it out.
And then we'll keep making movies.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Or
you
we'll go to
so
Ireland.
much. Yeah, we're going to
Let's
Ireland
go to
anyway.
Ireland,
I'm
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
We're gonna ride the back of your visas and dual citizenship, and we should all move
The
there.
breakfast. Santa Margaret was pregnant and she was loving. I mean, we all were, but it was funny. She was just like,
You
"Am I
all were
putting on
pregnant?
so much weight?" No, she was just like, we were all loving the breakfast, the Irish breakfast, and she's
There's
like,
nothing better.
"Tell me if I'm." She said that she was kind of like, "Tell me if I'm putting on too much weight during these couple weeks of
Yeah.
shoot," because she's like, "I am definitely
Her windbreaker
not
was
skimping
getting
on the
bigger.
breakfast." Yeah. Oh, actually, quick story is March at one point in Ping Pong Summer because these kids were literally pubescing during the shoot. Is that a word?
Right.
Stephanie came up to me, the costume designer. She's like, "Can I talk to you?" and I was like, what did I do? Like my first thought was like, what did I do? She goes, have you noticed Marcello is like filling out his parachute pants? Like he was growing. Well, I was like, we need to hurry up and get to day 29. So I think she actually like, I don't think it was noticeable enough, but it was noticeable enough
noticed.
for her. And then she kind of tried to like widen them a little.
She's
or
like, this is the
decrease a little.
only pair on eBay.
Where'd she
Yeah.
get those?
Somewhere on eBay. And that pop top, that Nike thing, it was all, I made a Google Doc of things
That
that I was
Nike
like, I
zip
really
up
hope,
thing?
yeah, I had that one. And I
That
was
was
like, if you
so
can, and she
dope.
found it. And I was like, wait, they're allowing it, the brand Nike, you know, it was all these things that I had never, I was like a kid in a candy store where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm putting, and even the IROC Z was one that I was like, there was
Yeah.
we were getting down to the finish line, and the art department, Bart and Joey Todd Kearns, art director, and Bob Weiss, everyone was just like, we want to make you happy, and found a IROC Z in New Jersey
Perfect.
like a few
IROC
days
Z.
before. I was like, it doesn't have to
I mean,
be.
dude, like
doesn't have to be.
My friend had an IROC. Like
Yeah.
everything was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just like,
But it was those things where I'm like, it doesn't have to be. I know what we're doing here. You know, we're not like $30 million. And then the like movie
And it would
gods kind
happen.
of smiled upon us and let it
It's
happen. you
amazing.
know?
It's so good.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the movie guys did smile upon you because to do a film with kids
Yep.
that just was so balanced, so perfect, and it was just
Yep.
nailed the genre.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. It
Well,
was
thanks,
awesome.
guys. You're
was
making
awesome.
me feel real good.
I loved it.
Oh.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
gonna go play Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah, thanks for
I'm gonna go
joining
watch
us
Oh,
it
today.
yeah. Thanks so much. I can't
Yeah.
wait to listen and watch the
Yep.
other ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
All right.